Most family enterprises spend enormous time managing financial risk. They stress test portfolio, diversify investments, they debate asset allocation and capital structure. Yet the risk that most often determines whether a family enterprise thrives or fractures across generations is rarely on the balance sheet. It's human capital risk. And in my experience, working with family offices and business owning families, it is consistently the most underestimated risk of all. I actually had a conversation with fellow professionals regarding this topic recently. So, when I say human capital risk, I'm not only referring to the employees or compensation and incentive plans, I'm also talking about the leadership readiness across generations, capability gaps that may be masked by titles or family roles, informal decision making power that is perhaps not clearly defined, and the quiet assumption that we'll figure it out when the comes, or we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. Most families often don't intentionally ignore this risk. They simply assume that continuity will take care of itself. And that's a big one. But history suggests otherwise. So let's first take a step back and think through what that human capital risk is and how it shows up. It usually shows up in the next generation when they do not feel empowered. Maybe they're ready but empowered, or empowered but not ready. When founders continue to hold the decision authority too long, or perhaps they step back too quickly without a proper structure in place. And when roles exist but accountability does not, or perhaps when expectations are assumed versus clearly articulated. None of this would appear on the quarterly report or boardroom meetings, but it does show up in slower decision making, internal friction, talent flight, strategic drift, and eventually in capital erosion. So, why do family enterprises underestimate it, you may ask? Well, there are three reasons this risk is often overlooked or underestimated. First, families often equate trust with readiness. Trust, of course, matters, but capability still needs to be built deliberately. Second, governance is frequently delayed until there is tension, and by then emotions are involved and options narrow. Third, many families focus heavily on preserving capital but underestimate how much capital preservation depends on who is making the decisions, when, and how. Strong balance sheets do not compensate for unclear leadership. And here are some of the patterns that I see across families that I've had a dialogue or worked with. Perhaps they have excellent advisors, sophisticated investment structures, and significant liquidity, yet the enterprise may still struggle because roles are unclear, authority is informal, next gen development is reactive versus intentional, and the irony in all of this is that the families most capable of addressing human capital risk early are often the ones least likely to prioritize it. So, how can you mitigate that risk? How can you be forward thinking and intentional about it? Mitigating the human capital risk does not require perfection, but it does require intention, and it starts with asking the question, who is being developed and not just positioned? Where does decision authority actually live today? What capabilities are required for the next phase of the enterprise? And are we building those capabilities on purpose? This boils down to governance and leadership work. And this is how the risk can be managed in the most practical form. So I will leave you with this. If this topic resonates and I actually explore it more deeply in my family enterprise brief newsletter where I write about governance, next gen readiness, risk stewardship, and long term and strategic decision making for family enterprises. So, if you are navigating any of these questions inside your family or family office, I welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation and hear from you. You can connect directly with me here, and I'll leave you with this reflection. What human capital risk is your enterprise quietly carrying forward today? Share in the comments below or message me one on one.